Wait, did any of y'all get caught doing that stuff?
No.
The parentals?
No.
I never got
Too
caught in
smart?
the act, but my mom would find cleanup materials, let's say, and that was pretty embarrassing.
Hard socks.
Yes, exactly. Stiff clothing.
Did she ever question you about it? Because that would be an awkward conversation.
Not directly, because I mean she would make comments about it, and that was enough
Your
to
clothes are
horrify me.
extra starchy. Why are you starching your
She would
socks?
say something about
I'll
like,
have to wash your socks 6 times just to get it loose.
she'd be like, "Did you step in something? Because boy, the socks for sure were pretty crunchy." Oh God.
All right, welcome to episode 246 of the Linux Lugcast. We're an open podcast /lug that meets at 9 p.m. Eastern every first and third Friday of the month using Mumble. We encourage anybody listening and at all just to come on and join and participate. Go to linuxlugcast.com for the Mumble server details. You can also go to linuxlugcast.com, and there is a link to the Mumble web. It's really small. I need to go in and refix it. I've looked at it recently and didn't realize how crappy it turned out when I put it into the onto the web page, but it is technically there. So if anybody wants to go and click on it, it will work, but it is there. We also have an email address, feedback@linuxlugcast.com. You can send us feedback. It hasn't happened yet, but at least not in many years. Let's put it that way. But the link does work. I've tested it out before. So if anybody wants to send us an email, go ahead. We're here. We're listening. All right. We also have a Lemmy group where we post things. More accurately, Danny posts things. And we have a Matrix channel where we sit around and BS. And we have a video version of this. So if you're not already watching us and would like to watch us, you can go over to youtube.com and check us out. We're in what is that group called? Linux Lugcast, probably. Our channel is probably called Linux Lugcast. We also have a Peertube group, but it's also called Linux Lugcast. I'm your host for this evening, Honky Magoo. With us tonight is Eric.
Hey, everybody.
Joe.
Hello.
Minnix.
Hello.
Morton C.
Hello.
And Net Miner.
Hello, folks.
All right. Just because we had already started talking about it, we're going to jump straight into the wonderful movie. And just because only about 2 of us actually finished all of it, I'm going to nominate Danny to actually give the synopsis of the movie.
Well, if you haven't finished it, I think you should, because it teaches you very important lessons about life.
You can't make me.
I'm not making you. I'm just suggesting that you should. So this week's movie was called Seduction: His Secret Life from 2005. And I did you pick this show, or I may have added it to the list. I don't know, but it was originally a Lifetime movie. We all know how good Lifetime movies are. And the premise is you can't tell by the title. It's about being addicted to internet pornography, and it starts with the kid in high school who's the star swimmer, and he gets turned on to porn at a party he's at. And for some reason, everybody is down in the basement, girls and guys, and they're watching porn on the TV together. And I don't know if they just discovered that porn exists on the internet or what, but they're all amazed at what they're watching. And our titular character, what is his real name is Jeremy Sumter, but I forgot what his name is in the movie. Or Justin sees it, and he like, it flips his lid. It's like the coolest thing he's ever seen in his life. is you can just go to a website and find porn. And when he gets back home, he like goes on the family computer and starts searching for big-breasted women, naked college girls,
Latex.
yeah, all kinds of stuff, and it's instantly the devil's got its hooks in him, and he just can't break free. And he's also happens to be like a state swimmer or whatever, like he's going to all state for the swimming championships. He's like the best swimmer in high school, and unfortunately now he's got this monkey on his back that he's addicted to. And as the movie goes on, his mom catches him at various times. His dad has to have a very awkward talk with him that there's more to sex than there's more to relationships than just sex. There's love and sharing and bullshit like that.
Lies.
And just a bunch of lies. And he gets his brother in trouble. His brother catches him, watches it. A little brother, and shares it with a friend at school. And the friend tells the school that who showed it to him, and it gets back to Justin's mom. That now the little brother's involved in this circle of seduction and debauchery. And as the story goes on, he has a girlfriend too who's Christian and is really into going to church and stuff. And she finds, I guess they're still using PDA. Or are they still using PDAs at this time? 2005.
That's what it looked like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's some kind of PDA that has an internet connection. He's been watching porn on his little high school girlfriend's PDA, and she discovers the internet history and gets pissed off and breaks up with him, and his life is just in shambles. It falls apart. There's a funny scene where he goes to his friend's house, and now he's into the heavy stuff. He's into the bondage and the leather and the latex, and he shows his friend this new hardcore stuff he's found, and his friend is kind of disgusted by it and tells him to turn it off. He doesn't want that stuff on his TV, or I don't know what if that's what that
like
is.
He didn't want it on his network.
Is it web TV? Is what it looks like.
TV,
yeah. Which, if you younger generation don't know, we used to have some, instead of what we saw computers, but a lot of people consume the internet through their TV, through a box called Web TV, and it basically gave you a keyboard, and there was a box connected to the TV, and that's how you surf the internet, through your TV. But anyway, and so everything starts falling apart, and towards the end there, he also hits on this girl named Monica. She's kind of like a hot little high school vixen. And that kind of leads to them, because she has her own she has her own website or web presence, but she's in like sexy lingerie and stuff on the internet, and he tries to hook up with her, and he runs away because he gets scared because he's never had sex before, and she's kind of like weirded out and hits her head on a sink and busts it open. And then towards the end, her friends find out that he's the one that caused her to hit her head on the sink, and they beat him up within an inch of his life, and he's down and out and addicted to porn, and he goes and to the high school gym where the swimming pool is, and jumps in and tries to drown himself, and he has flashbacks of his friends and family, and it brings him out of the water. At the very beginning of the movie, you see him jump in a pool, and that's the end too. Is it's him jumping in that pool, and but he thinks back to his family and his girlfriend and all that, and he comes out of the water and he decides not to kill himself, and he's smiling, so he wants to put his life back together. But it's
I think the only part that surprised me about that was the whole the slutty girl hits her head. The rest of it was very predictable.
yes, it's very. There was. I don't know if you would if this would be akin to the 2000s version of like the 80s Satanic Panic, but there was a time in the early 2000s where the internet was really blowing up and cyber porn was the big boogeyman that everybody needed to protect their kids from.
And nobody knew how to, use a VPN or clear their web history or no safety precautions whatsoever. And you see all these pop-ups, and yes, that was very, very early 2000s.
Yes. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say this might be a...
While you've been dealing with this lovely movie, I have some news. There is $300 billion which the Biden administration may parcel out to somebody before the election as stimulus.
The cyber porn industry?
People like Joe?
Possibly. I've just, while you guys were talking about this great piece of artwork, I decided to follow up a YouTuber who has said that there has been $1/3 trillion sitting somewhere unallocated that a president like either Biden or
Trump?
Yes, could actually turn into stimulus checks again.
Go to Trump's legal fees?
I don't know if it goes to Trump's legal fees. Although if he gets elected, I suspect a lot of other people are going to have high legal fees too.
Well, let's finish this up, and then we can talk about that. There's
you were saying, Eric?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, in terms of, this might be a controversial opinion, but in terms of adoption of the internet, I think at first there was not as great a need because it wasn't like people were doing virtual, work from home, or, it was really more of a curiosity. And I would bet that the idea that there was free pornography online was a pretty strong incentive for at least a fairly sizable portion of the population. I mean, I'm not saying that might be the only reason,
that's the Futurama opinion.
Well, it's the driving force of technology behind the internet. It's porn.
Well, isn't it the truth that like most traffic on
pornography
the
and war?
Well, what is it? What's the, I forget which porn site it is, but they are like the third most visited website on the internet
right now.
Pornhub,
yeah.
But
right.
Pornhub, they ended up boosting their traffic because they put a lot of educational stuff on there for a while.
Educational?
Interesting.
Like non-pornographic, actually educational stuff. Like it was weird. I don't even remember all the details on it, but yeah.
What?
Hold on, let me see if I can find the article.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was a big growing factor between. You imagine that the main people who were using the internet at the time were nerds. They were guys living in their basements, not able to get chicks, so they spent most of their time looking at things like porn and places where they can sit around and argue, sci-fi facts. And look, when I was younger, that's what I was doing.
Oh, you sicko.
Okay,
actually,
I argued.
You disgust me.
Usenet alt blah 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 dot image or whatever. The
Look,
alt
go ahead.
alt something or other image, you know. The GIF format from CompuServe and whatnot was invented. It wasn't necessarily invented for snapshots.
I mean,
They
I
found a
remember
way.
as a kid, Leisure Suit Larry was huge, you know, because that was
Yep.
the adult video game to
Oh
have.
my god, but you had to get all the way to the end to see anything.
My friend's dad had all of them, and we used to make fun of him.
And then I remember my friend had a strip poker game on his Commodore 64, and this is the first time we ever saw naked women on the internet, and it was a drawn comic version of a GIF, basically, not even a GIF. It was just pixelated art, but we were like, wow, man. And he had some kind of hack where you didn't have to win to see the naked girls, and you could just go, scroll through them and see them all. So yeah, I think porn is always, I think they were one of the driving forces for streaming technology on the internet too.
Yeah.
Porn sites and stuff like that. And
Well, I know that there's a certain corner of a Playboy picture which has been used for generations now as the standard material to feed image compression algorithms, to compare image compression algorithms from, let's say, the 80s to today. They use this tiny corner of a Playboy image and they say, all right, run this thing through your compression and see what comes out. Also, when I was at MIT, they had a multi-headed PDP-11 working on MIT's own version of the internet called ChaosNet, and it was running BSD something or other, depending on the host. It was started out as an 1145 and then moved up to small VAX, I believe. Again, mostly discarded machines. Primary hard disk was a HASIC-sized 80 gig, maybe 80 meg. I can't tell. It was a huge drive, but not really a lot of capacity. And the night TVs were essentially a multi-headed Hercules display, which is to say monochrome graphics with X by Y pixel display, and all of your characters are drawn accordingly through much magic in your Xorg system. Well, the pictures that they were getting were scanned Playboy centerfolds. At least initially they had to change it, but that's what they were using for screensavers. And when I went to the AI lab and they were showing me this brand new 286 video system that they were working on, the full page display that they had was also somebody's favorite scan of a Playboy centerfold. Yes, it appears that the Playboy centerfold has been part of computer science for a very long time.
also, I wanted to bring this up because there's a point in this movie where he uses his mom's credit card to get porn. That just for the average kid that didn't really know a lot of stuff, most of our porn consumption was through like tiny clips of websites that you had to pay to access, but they would give you little preview clips and stuff, and maybe just
Look,
some teaser shots.
I don't know about 2005, but I know that in 1998-ish, when I was like 16, most of those sites that required a credit card had really, really piss poor security, and all of their images and videos were based on a number. And you could essentially go up to your bar, your address bar, and change the number and go to the next one. Or put in a random number and find one.
So when I was younger, I found these.
A lot of was that also when a lot of people found uses for those free credit cards that they were handing out to email that they were physically mailing to everybody who nobody ever signed up for, but those numbers turned out to be useful when you needed to prove your age on one of those sites.
Free credit cards.
I don't remember that either.
Well, I had heard that a lot of credit card companies were spamming people with credit cards, and well, they may not have actually signed up a lot of people, but a lot of those cards ended up on such sites where enter your credit card so we know that you're over 18 or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember getting free credit cards in the mail. Or if we did,
So in the early 90s, credit card companies were telemarketing and soliciting and, that whole, what's the Cobra?
Insurance?
The health insurance?
Analogy? No. In India, with the Cobras, the British paid them for killing cobras. So people raised cobras and then would kill them. So the more they paid, the more cobras there were. And then they stopped paying, and all the people that were breeding cobras let them loose. That whole incentive program is never makes things better. So in telemarketing, if people's jobs and money are based on how many credit cards they send out, they just click yes, they accept it and send it out. And then it's years later before anybody finds out. We had tons of issues like that when I was at Chase, where they were just sending out credit cards. So they arrived to people at the wrong address, and yeah, it was interesting.
Dead people.
But they passed laws against that.
Yeah, it seems like a
dead
bad
people.
idea.
Oh, another. Ray Stevens has a very good election year song. It says, Grandpa voted Democrat for the first time in his life.
I don't get it.
Grandpa's dead.
Yeah,
He's dead.
Since 95, but evidently he voted for Biden.
I gotcha. Boomer humor.
Also, he was a Southern Republican. So that
Your grandpa was?
No, well, most of them are. That's how it made it such a scandal, is that he was a Republican all his life, and then they find, when they count the votes, that he's voted for Biden. Of course, there was no problem with the last election. All of those rumors of mail-in ballots found in ditches, etc., were purely misinformation. Yeah, right.
They
Okay,
didn't say that they were
before we-
misinformation. They said
Before we
that
turn into Fox News, let's get back to the subject at hand. So anyway, Joe, you were saying that you could change. You found ways around the porn sites by hacking the
it's not
numbering.
hacking. I don't even think you could call it hacking.
Well, no. They passed laws that's it's considered hacking. You just change the URLs.
Yeah.
So a lot of logins just gave you redirected you to a further URL, but there was nothing to stop you from going to that URL directly.
So yeah, that's what I wound up doing. I found a website when I was about 16 years old called Super Thumbs, and all it was just a bunch of thumb images of porn, and I would click on one, but that clicking on that one brought me to the site, and then I had free range on that site because I was already in there.
Right,
So
and they had like stupid naming schemes. So they'd have the name of it or the number scheme of it, and then underscore thumb. And so if you wanted the full one, you just removed the underscore thumb.
I didn't even have to change any
this.
URLs. I just clicked on the one image, and it was basically just put me right in there, and I was able to navigate the rest of that site pretty much.
Too bad you
guys
didn't know
were
how to
some
script
horny
back then,
kids.
and you could just script all the wget, all the links, and loop through them.
I didn't have that much storage back then, man. Imagine if I wget all of that.
Right? I didn't
Yeah,
even know what
be
Linux
smart
was
enough
back
to do
then.
any of this stuff.
If it was physically on my machine, somebody would find it. Actually, no one would ever went onto my machines, but yeah.
Did any of your parents ever catch you crouched over your laptops and just?
Oh,
just
No. See, you're
Sweating.
making an assumption there. We didn't have
sweating while your
laptops in
pants are around your ankles
1996.
at the family computer. Then
Excuse me, we were talking either AT type machines, or I remember when I had my 100 megahertz Packard Bell 16 meg RAM.
486
Dog.
DX266.
wait,
Oh,
did any of y'all get caught doing that stuff?
no,
The parentals?
no.
I never
no.
got
Too
caught
smart.
in the act, but my mom would find cleanup materials, let's say, and that was
Hard.
pretty embarrassing.
Hard socks.
Yes, exactly. Stiff clothing.
Did she ever question you about it? Because that would be an awful conversation.
Yeah.
Not directly, because I mean she would make comments about it, and that was enough
your
to
clothes are
horrify me.
extra starchy. Why are you starching your
She would
socks?
say something about
I'll
like,
have to wash your socks 6 times just to get it loose.
she'd be like, "Did you step in something? Because boy, that's the socks for sure were pretty crunchy." Oh God, disgusting.
Actually, it's why I had a rather large collection of white handkerchiefs for some strange reason for many years.
You guys didn't just use toilet paper or Kleenex like a normal person and throw it in the toilet to get rid of
Not
it?
till
You
later.
just
Listen,
used your,
when you're
used your
14
clothes?
years old,
It's gross.
You're not
No
smart
ghost
enough to think of
babies.
that. Yeah.
You just couldn't wait to be
Listen,
next to
I
some
didn't get
Kleenex or
smart.
toilet
I
paper.
wasn't.
You had to do it immediately.
No, when I was a teenager,
That's
I wasn't
not
that
mine.
smart. Took me until I was a married man to be smart enough.
Hey, you get better at it the older you are.
There's a point in this movie where the mom eventually puts the computer into the, I think, the den or the kitchen or something, takes it out of his room, and then she just cuts off the internet altogether, and that's when he has to sneak her credit card and subscribe to some more internet so he can start looking at some more porn. And also, by the way, is this really an addiction? Because aren't you done after like 5 minutes and then you just go
At
about
least.
your day?
I
No,
mean,
for
I guess
some people it does turn into an addiction because there's an endorphin rush in finding the videos and watching the videos. It is a known addiction for
Is it really?
some people.
Because, how can that be though? I
5
mean,
times, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times a day. At what
oh
point
my
is it
God.
addiction, Danny?
Listen, strong muscles and chafing, right?
Never
Better
mind.
lose.
Here's an entire world invented for the internet. Second
I don't know,
Life.
man. It just seems to me like once you're
No.
done, you forget about it.
Second Life has a completely virtual universe that people have been making serious USDA coin on for generations now.
Well, people did the same thing with Warcraft. I mean, they turned grinding into a business on Warcraft for a long time. I mean, people used to make money with it, and then the makers changed things to make that a lot more difficult.
Also, there is an entire industry of upgrades to Fallout to produce more adult environments, costumes, partnerships, etc.
Like
That's
mods? Game mods?
That's another thing I don't get. It's like
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, there used to be a YouTube channel which used to cover a lot of these upgrades, and a lot of the YouTube videos had to have certain areas had to be blanked out to match YouTube standards. Of course, the channel also had a Patreon page where you could get the unedited version. I think YouTube has helped Patreon more than Patreon has helped anything else.
No, but there's been like mods for that type of thing for a while. I do remember hearing about a mod for Tomb Raider where you could like make everybody naked or something back in the day. See if I can find that one. Maybe I'm just getting old and my brain is, wrong.
Actually, I think there was even some
There's one.
kinky stuff for Duke Nukem, the old DOS thing.
The
That's
side-scrolling one or the 3D one?
I don't know. I never dug into it that deeply, but I had heard that there was a lot of them. One of the more famous ones was the Energizer Bunny, that you turned your targets into Energizer Bunnies that you could keep shooting at.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that. That's the Duke Nukem 3D.
Also, on top of all of this, you had like I don't know. There were ad-supported dial-up internet services that probably should fit in here somewhere.
Net Zero?
Blue
yeah,
Light is the
Zero
best.
for a while.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Net Zero. Yeah, was one of the ones. I mean, companies that really abused poor innocent Internet Explorer, whatever, 3, 4, 5, whatever it was. I mean, the amount of crap that
All
those
the toolbars.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Didn't even see the web page.
I was just starting out in IT back then, late 90s, and yeah, like everybody's computer that I'd go to fix, it would be like, do you mind if I uninstall like the 7 toolbars you have? Oh, I didn't even notice. I'm like, it's the top 3 inches of your browser. Like, how do you not notice? Why is my browser so slow?
and also, yeah, that's when Google actually had a toolbar that went with your Firefox or whatever too.
Everybody had a toolbar.
Yep, and every time you downloaded something, it wanted to add another toolbar to your
Let's
system.
add a toolbar. Make it easier to
Right.
search on here next time.
So, I don't know what you guys would rate this movie. Like, I think
Well,
I
we know it
could
was your
guess-
favorite
Negative
movie.
12.
Danny loved it.
I think it's going to be a midnight cult classic movie, kind of just because it's the portrayal of. It's so far. It's what a house mom thinks that would happen if their kids started watching porn on the like. There's a point in the movie where the mom first brings it up to the dad, and the dad even says, "Yeah, all boys do that. They all look at porn and naked women and girls with big boobs." I think that's how he put it.
I had Playboy's magazines underneath my bed as a kid.
Yeah, and but this movie is basically what is that? Mazes and Monsters, that old Tom Hanks movies, but with internet porn instead of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's
Madness.
It's the Reefer Madness, Mazes and Monsters of internet porn, and for that reason alone, I think it's kind of a funny snapshot of the early 2000s and what the attitude was, even among politicians at the time. Was this scare about how porn is corrupting kids, and I don't think that's really true. But
they're still on that. I mean, how many states now have made porn not necessarily illegal, but age gated in such a way that porn sites won't go there?
yeah,
But it
that's
doesn't
true.
stop Texans from going to Pornhub.
What was the UK doing? They were trying to make it so that anything explicit you would have to like have your ID or something. Like, it was really, so there was no anonymity whatsoever, and I don't know that it actually fully passed or not, but I know they were threatening to do it.
I think it's too hard to monitor, though.
I think it's so much easier just to get a VPN.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'll look like I'm in Outer Mongolia if they really want.
Yeah, well, a lot of this is feel-good legislation, and if they tried to implement the entire EU has wanted to put restrictions on any cross-linking on the internet worldwide. And if they ever enforced it, it would just mean that the EU would become North Korea, because no internet provider would want to get sucked into that regulatory maelstrom, hellhole.
That's true.
It would essentially
gone
be
away.
unenforceable.
Right.
Yeah, I think there is 5 more states that said that they need age verification to access
Now,
adult content online now.
I do have, some concerns in regards to like deep fakes, AI generated porn, and stuff like that. But you're never going to get porn off of the internet.
What's your problem with it?
AIs and deepfakes.
Yeah.
It's the new revenge porn. I mean, I had a problem with revenge porn too.
Oh.
That's totally different.
So people are taking every picture that they can of somebody, popping it into like Stable Diffusion and making
Revenge porn is one, and then also you have celebrities that aren't doing porn, whose faces end up on stuff, and it can be a hit to their reputation.
You can do that with just Photoshop too. I mean,
yeah, but not as well, not as easy.
not as well.
It's showing up a lot more.
Let's be honest. I've sat there and played with some of this. You'd have to get a lot of pictures of different angles and stuff of somebody to be able to create a Stable Diffusion checkpoint or something to be able to get it in there.
There aren't a lot of images of Scarlett Johansson out there?
I'm just saying that Photoshop is much easier than trying to create something with Stable Diffusion, unless you're going to use it for a lot of different things. So again, Scarlett Johansson, yes, but as revenge porn, that's something completely different. You're gonna have to like sit there and follow this person around for a while and hope that, or just hope that they sit there and take so many selfies of themselves that it's actually worth fucking doing.
Well, or if somebody gets on the Lugcast here and has all our images with all our faces moving around all the time,
they could do anything with my face. I'm surprised they haven't yet. Look at this beautiful face. Look at this.
Right?
Oh, I will. You just wait.
Okay. It's all going to be with headphones on, apparently.
I think Scarlett Johansson's more worried about her voice being copied.
Well, that too.
I can't believe they had the balls to do that.
It
And then be
wasn't,
like, no,
it wasn't
it's
AI
not. It was an
generated.
actress.
It was just somebody that sounded similar to her. It
Shit.
wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
What was it?
It was OpenAI. They wanted to use because of the movie Red, because she was the voice in the movie Red. That they wanted to use her voice as a computer generated, as an AI voice, and she said no.
Where was
and
she?
So
Red?
they
multiple times she said
her.
Her. I'm sorry, not Red. You're right.
Oh,
her.
Okay.
And so they just basically did it anyway. And then she found out and sued them. And they're like, no, it wasn't her voice. It was some other actress. It's like, okay.
Bring forth this actress. We can't.
I'm very curious to see what happens with a lot of these large language model companies having stolen so much of this material. Is the New York Times going to win? That type of stuff. We'll see.
What's going on with the New York Times?
So you can type in specific articles and it will regurgitate verbatim the materials from like newspapers and stuff like that. So the New York Times is like, you can't just steal our stuff and take it and put it in your system. Like it's copyrighted material. And they're like, oh no, it's fair use because it's on the web. And they're like, no.
I wonder if I could like take all of the recordings of my voice from the various podcasts I've done over the years and just anything else where my voice was recorded and put together an AI large language whatever with my voice and use that to like generate audiobooks and
yes,
put it on Amazon.
It takes a lot less than that though. It only takes like 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
It's a lot harder than you think. Unless they've really upped their game with that. Yeah. Because I know the guy who does Hacker Public, Ken Fallon wanted to do that. His wife wanted to read that so that he can do audiobooks for his son. Again, this was a couple years back. Unless they've made leaps and bounds.
They have.
And again, I think that might just be hardware generated. I mean, we're talking about, I know Danny was talking about doing some stuff with trying to get a, what was it? You were trying to create your own, what was the like Alexa type of a thing? And you're talking about how all the whole audio generated.
That was trying to get voice to text working for Home Assistant. Is that what you mean?
I think
Or do
so.
you mean when I was using Llama this last time?
No, the voice to text one.
Yeah.
Llama's more
voice to text.
Llama is more what's it called? Too goddamn late. Yeah, that's just ChatGPT type shit.
So according to Ars Technica, and this is last year, Microsoft's new AI can simulate anyone's voice with 3 seconds of audio. And this is using the VAL-E, VALL-E system or AI model or whatever.
Well, I think that's more their hardware, though.
Well, no, that's just the next generation. If you're saying it was a couple years ago, then yes, you were probably right that it would take a lot more. But now it takes very, very little. And that's to create something that's a close mimic. If you want something that's like really clean, it's only like maybe a minute or two of audio.
Now, is that something? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Peter. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
That's okay. No, that's all it really takes. And so one of the scams that's been being perpetrated for a number of years now is this, like, your son, your grandson, like someone is in trouble somewhere, and it's just some guy like who's covering his mouth and talking like this. And whenever they say, well, it doesn't sound like you, they go, oh, no, my nose is broken, or, and it was kind of a hack. Like, it was, if you were smart at all, you would probably not fall for it. But they called my grandmother like several times and claimed to be me. And I have other friends that it happened to as well. So it's just these people who do it now. If they can find any audio of you somewhere, then they'll create one of these models, and instead of having to pretend like their nose is broken, it sounds like you. And so I just basically told everyone in my family, I'm never going to call you and claim that I'm in trouble somewhere and need $3,000 or something in gift cards. Like, it's never going to happen. So don't fall for it. But that's so in terms of the nefarious ways that things can be used, that's absolutely. And we're talking like it costs almost nothing. There are lots of websites you just go to, upload the clips, and they generate the model, and then you can just basically type in whatever you want, and it creates the
Is
voice
it that
file.
accessible?
Oh yeah, and cheap.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't seem, well, again, this was a while back, but it wasn't that easy just to put it all together. It took much bigger hardware.
Well, they're all using like cloud stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah, there's one called Speechify, and trying to see what it's try for free, so you can do it for free, and then trying to see what their pricing is. But I know most of them are pretty inexpensive, so.
Well, you've also got to remember that for $70, you can get an add-on for Raspberry Pi 5 that starts putting a minimal AI network attached to your Raspberry Pis. I'm not saying that that's the kind of thing, but I'm just saying that the scale is getting down where they can do it that simply for virtually any cheap computer. The stuff that they have when they have racks of the stuff must be pretty sophisticated.
So this looks like pre-generated voices. Do they have one where you can create? Am I missing the part where you can create?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It's
because this has like Gwyneth Paltrow and Snoop Dogg and stuff.
There's a blog article on how to create an AI voice from a sample, and collect voice samples, get clear audio files of the person's voice you want to replicate, pre-process the audio, clean and trim the audio clip to ensure high quality input, analyze with AI tools using deep learning algorithms to analyze the speaking styles and characteristics, generate the voice model, use voice cloning techniques to create a custom voice model, synthesize the new voice, generate the new voice using synthetic voices technologies. So,
But from my understanding, even just speech to text isn't that easy to do.
no, it's so far ahead of where I think you last saw it.
Can you? Well, would you think you can run speech to text on, like, create a model at home?
Well, they're getting pretty good with that too. So, excuse me. I have more experience with text models, and then some like Stable Diffusion stuff. And you can run a lot of that on a pretty modest, I think I have a 6 gig NVIDIA card. So it's not even like, yeah.
Well, I've run ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion, but that's a lot different than speech to text. Or not
really.
speech to text. Yeah.
Why is it that different? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not being like confrontational. I'm just curious.
I don't know. I just know that for the longest time it's been that you've had to use like Google, like what's it called, the Mycroft was even using Google's speech to text because it was too big for them to handle on their own.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, so Speechify has this voice cloning. It says it's try voice cloning. It's free. Commercial usage rights, maintain accent, nuances, and style. You get 100,000 characters per month included. Generate new audio in seconds. Use an editor for narrating any script. Built for content creators, presentations, training, and e-learning. I was actually just looking at podcasting tools to use AI, like to basically either using like you can do one that's like a word processor almost, where you see the transcript of the audio file that you're working on, and you can just like delete sections of it, and it just does the editing in the background for you instead of the traditional like waveform editing. And that system allows you to clone your voice, and just literally, if there's a section where you want to replace something, you can just type in what you want it to say, and it will use a clone of your voice to create that section of text. And it's supposed to be like really clean and seamless. So it's not that, it's certainly not expensive, and it's really not that difficult from what I can see. So I mean, it's certainly at least slightly dystopian, right? It's a little scary that, especially for all of us who like put stuff out there, where if all they need is some clips of us speaking. Yeah, I don't know. And, this is the type of technology that our lawmakers are so far behind that, they just can't even fathom how this stuff works. And for them to make any kind of effective policy, like they don't know how any of this, how are they going to possibly legislate anything around this,
Yep. I love how we transitioned from porn to AI voice generation.
Yeah, for speech to text, Mycroft is still using Google's STT engine. But again,
Mycroft is still around?
Yeah. And they put out a new one within like the last year or so.
My laptop is not charging. I don't know why.
What's not charging?
My laptop.
Oh no,
Broke it.
that's not good.
I'm gonna have to reboot.
Broke it.
See, I don't know. That means I'm gonna have to get the recording from you, Honky.
Nobody's
Is it a
recording the Jitsi other than you.
Not the Jitsi recording, the mumble recording.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, that means we can talk smack about Danny for a little while. Oh, he's not gone yet. Okay, so what topic do we want to move on to now?
Well, what has anybody been working on?
I haven't really been working on much. I did pick up a couple of Razer Black Widow keyboards from one of the local resale shops. So, $150 keyboards that I got for about $10. Well, one of them was the Black Widow Ultimate, and one of them was the Black Widow Elite. And nothing really wrong with them. I think the Elite, it's the one with the volume scroller. I got to go in there with some deoxit or some rubbing alcohol and just clean that up a little bit. And then I had to 3D print one of the little pieces that connects into the space bar and mounts to the support bracket, so that way you can use the space bar from any spot in it instead of just the center. So that was a good buy. I mean, for a wired keyboard, they're top of the line. One of them's got blue keys, one of them's got green keys. One of them will be a present for somebody for Christmas.
Are they clicky keys, like cherry
Yeah.
switches?
Yes, MX Cherry.
Nice.
Blues and greens. So the blues are the louder ones, the greens are the more mechanical feeling ones.
Are they the ones that you can hear from 2 rooms away, like?
Some of that depends on the back plate. So I do have louder keyboards, like the Red
Okay.
Dragon is louder because of the back plate, and it's got MX Cherry blues in it. So, but they're quite loud compared to what most people enjoy.
And is it the tactile feel of it, or is it the fact that it's loud enough to bother people that makes it fun? Or both?
Both really.
Yeah.
I used to love taking my loud keyboard into work and having it there and just annoying the people at the halfway across the room.
Especially when you can type really fast.
Yeah.
Because then it's like...
What are they going to do? Come by and say, hey, stop typing? No.
Open up a text editor and just go crazy.
Start journaling in the middle of work. Are you writing a book? How'd you guess? Yeah, there are louder keyboards, and those are gaming keyboards, and they do have an audio jack and a USB extension on them. I think one of them, the Ultimate, has 2 USB ports, and then the Elite only has 1. Yes, they will make excellent Christmas gifts.
Here's a completely random question. Do any of you like those Microsoft natural keyboards where they're like turned at a weird angle?
Ergonomic ones?
Yeah.
I've used them. They're okay. I also like the idea of split keyboards, but I haven't found a split keyboard that was quite There's one that came out that's like completely wireless, like both sides are wireless. So I might be able to use that, but I'd love to be able to set up, you know, a split keyboard and then like have one on like each arm of my chair.
That would be awesome.
That'd be cool.
You made me think of some kind of like glove, like typing glove. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, there's a couple of different versions of that. Well, he's talking about the Nintendo one, or you know, gesturing for the Nintendo one. But no, there's one where it's like it sits on your desk. It looks kind of like a gaming keyboard, so like a half keyboard. But you put your hand in it, and then like you can. It's got this thing that comes up this way, and so you can move your finger up to type or down to type or whatever else. So all your fingers. Yeah, it's out there. I think it's mostly used for gaming as well. It can be a full keyboard. Then there was another one that was in Kickstarter that I thought about backing, but I knew it wasn't actually going to come out, where you like hold the keyboard and then you type on the back.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
You're holding it and then you're just using these fingers to type.
You know what? This is how my weird mind works. Now I just thought of Blackberries, or those old pagers that had the tiny little keyboards.
Yeah.
I got so used to typing on those little chiclet things that whenever touchscreens first came out, I was bummed out because I was terrible at touch typing comparatively.
Yeah, I missed little flip out keyboards.
No, like the BlackBerry or the HTC Dash that had the little domed keys. Yep. Yeah, no.
Well, I liked that the BlackBerry had the thumb
tactile
too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they were running Windows Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Windows Mobile phone.
So the Dash was a Windows Mobile phone, and the Dash too.
Yeah, you could actually get a lot of stuff done on those Windows Mobile devices.
Well, connected to the internet.
Compared to a flip phone, or compared to a a Palm Pilot or something.
True, which is why I bought one and I was playing with it for a while. But I mean, I tried using like a spreadsheet on there to do some basic stuff. I think I used it for like Christmas, keeping track of like Christmas gifts or something like that, and it was still very janky.
Yeah, they were a little jank, and it was honestly better just to get a PDA at that time frame. I mean, get a Windows PDA, have a stylus, and do it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I could deal with one of those keyboards that are split on the side, or like the two-handed keyboard. I don't think I could deal with that.
I think it would take some getting used to.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed that I seem to type better if my keyboard is up at like a good solid angle like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but it's I can.
It'd be like switching to a Dvorak keyboard. Like that would take me a long time to get.
Yeah, that's completely relearning how to type.
It's the same. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't need to completely relearn to type with a split, but yeah, it would still be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, there'd have to be a pretty strong incentive, like reason to do that.
Because, sitting in the captain's chair is awesome.
Well, not the split keyboard, the Dvorak, like switching to a different style.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be faster, and the key placement is supposed to be better because, like, the QWERTY keyboards we use now were designed for typewriters and to force you to slow down in your typing, so that way you didn't get jams when the bars went forward, which is why the Dvorak is supposed to be better. But it's never been widely accepted because of where we started from, and everybody learns the QWERTY.
Right.
It's crazy how a standard like that just, they just came up with it. And then that just was because it was the beginning of the, typewriter revolution that it just got. Because I watched something about it, like how there were a lot of different competing layouts and stuff like that. Yeah. And just so happened that one kind of won out.
Well, I thought that one was specifically designed, one, to slow you down, and two, to prevent, to keep, letters that you type commonly as far from each other as possible on the levers, so that way there weren't jams as you were going from one letter to the next.
Right. Back when that was a concern, but yeah. I think that might be like one of the true next revolutions, and I don't know if AI drives this or something, but instead of needing to use a keyboard and mouse to effectively, not communicate, but like input data. Interface, thank you. Interface with a system. Will natural language ever be, like, can I actually just tell a system to do something and have it be,
I expect you'll be able to, but I expect, because of how work environments are, that that won't be common practice in most cases.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like the amount that people are using touch screens, like all my kids' schools, that they don't really even they barely want to teach actual physical writing anymore, because they figure everything is going to be on the iPad or something else. They're more focused on, I know it's not. I know this is fucking stupid and it drives me absolutely nuts, but they don't put any effort into it. They're like, oh, it's fine.
Okay.
Nobody writes anything anyways. It's all it's all fucking like touchscreen, and I hate touchscreen. I'd rather just give me a fucking keyboard. I can deal with an actual keyboard I can use my hands with. If I'm going to do anything where I need to put a great deal of text in, I'm never going to use a fucking touchscreen.
I understand the death of cursive, but you still need to be able to put shit down on paper.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. And you need cursive for your name. Not much else besides that, but you need it for your name, and you still need to be able to put shit down on paper.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I actually asked my daughter, I was like, are they teaching you keyboarding? Are they teaching you like any kind of, and they really don't put any effort or anything behind that at all. I think they expect kids to learn, like there's no general computing class or anything like that. Like they just expect these kids to know how to use technology. Yeah. And that's also expecting the parents to know how to use technology, because a lot of parents don't know how to do anything with a computer. So,
it never ceases to amaze me how much people don't know about the devices they use every day. Right. But honestly, most people these days have at least a general understanding of how to turn a computer on and how to get to a website.
Right.
How to send an email.
Well, you have to imagine that most of the generation that have kids in school right now, most of those parents have grown up with some sort of a computer around at some point during their life. Now, the generation like my in-laws, my father-in-law still absolutely refuses to touch. He has a flip phone. And absolutely refuses to touch. I think he had to do something for his work once. Like they had like mandatory, like ELM type of a thing where it's some electronic learning knowledge, whatever. Something where he's supposed to sit there and click through a thing. I think he wound up closing the box by accident, and he sat there going, "I broke it." You didn't break it. You just closed. I know I broke it. I broke the whole thing. Okay, buddy, that's all right. We'll do it over again. All right.
What's interesting though, because there was this sort of adoption curve of technology in the workplace, and then technology at home with the personal computer sort of revolution, and I feel like there was a fairly substantial portion of people who had general computer literacy. Who kind of at least knew how to do basic stuff on a computer. And it's amazing that smart devices and mobile devices have now kind of eroded that quite a bit. And what I see in younger people is that they don't know how to use a computer at all.
I do know a lot of people where their phone is their only device.
Right. And it's very limiting because you can only do so much on a phone. And honestly, the other thing is if you get into any kind of a corporate environment, in most cases, they still expect you to be able to use a computer. And so if you didn't have a computer literacy course in, in school or in college or, I mean, you get to a business and all of a sudden
Look,
they
you can't
sit you
even
down.
apply for jobs if you don't know how to use a computer these days.
Well, how do you learn?
Gotta do it.
I guess, but it's I just feel like there was this sort of like, if you look at a graph, there was this kind of climbing trend where a lot of people had, again, just the basic skills. And yeah, and I guess I just always expected younger people to be savvier. Like generation after generation is just going to be better and better at technology. And really, because of the way we've dumbed down,
Technology.
devices, like are really not. And in some cases, they're not nearly as savvy as like we are, which is
So
it's odd to me.
I also have another odd theory about that, where it's that, and I think I've it may not apply, but the amount of people who now have devices and are into this type of a thing are not the same people who were using computers before in the first place. Because you look at it now and like everybody has some sort of a mobile device or something, but these aren't the same people who would use a computer. It's I don't know. It's something odd that it's that people talk about how I don't know how people used to be able to use computers, or that everybody used computers beforehand, and now everybody is using mobile. My opinion is this: all the people that are using mobile aren't necessarily the same people that are using computers. The people who use computers and liked using computers are still using computers, and it's just that everybody else who wasn't using computers are using mobile. So you have the combination of those people who like using computers are also using mobile, and those people who weren't using a computer beforehand are now onto the mobile end of things. Which again, I'm not exactly sure is the same point, but it's I don't think there's the same connotation between people who are using computers and people who use mobile, because I think those are two separate people, and they've always been the same separate people.
So you see, those
wait.
are sort of divergent pieces of tech. I'm sorry.
I have some input here too.
Oh, okay.
One of the things I studied back in the day when they were teaching Pascal as the language to do whatever. I was doing it on a big CDC machine remotely through UMass Boston. But afterwards, everybody was taught Visual Basic, and a lot of those computer literate people were never taught the difference between integers and floating point. That is to say, they don't know about rounding error because everybody in Visual Basic land just deals with floating point. They don't have to know how to detect fundamental. Even when they're using computers as computers, they don't know how, they don't go down to the bits, even if they're so-called computer literate. And they won't know why your spreadsheet may or may not have rounding problems.
That's a fair point. You maybe not that specific example, but when you say that, I remember in my own lifetime when I was probably 8 or 9, I started using a Tandy TRS-80, and like everything I didn't have storage at that point. I didn't even have like the tape deck or tape drive, nothing. So basically when I turned it on, I just got a prompt, and if I wanted to do anything at all on that system, I had to type a program, and whether it was a small, thing or multiple pages or whatever, I had books of, basic programming. And then I remember, the next step was getting the tape deck so that I could like store the programs and then recall them. And then I got a floppy drive. And so, computers became progressively easier to use. And you're absolutely right. Like the idea that what we consider computer use today is so abstracted from what it used to be in terms of like the skill set you needed, the why you would use a computer, what you'd want to accomplish, that type of thing. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point.
Also, I have done accounting, and for a small stationery store, but the account system was written in Lotus 123, which is to say that any open office system could probably run the stuff, and or LibreOffice or what have you. But in order to deal with the accounting stuff, one would have to at least acknowledge that your spreadsheet may have rounding error issues or cross-posting issues where you're summing things across the page as well as up and down. I have no formal accounting training, but I hammered out a lot of shit on that machine. And believe it or not, what really killed it is he was backing up to floppies, and he missed a backup or two, and that really screwed everything up, because you can't do that with accounting because you have to keep infinite records.
Yep, a lot of stuff's got to be kept for at least 7 years. There's some 3-year stuff, some 5-year stuff, 7-year, and then perpetuity.
Also, this was done under DOS on a machine that was very underpowered for what he paid for it, I can tell. I mean, it was a 386 or something, maybe, but God. My Raspberry Pi can run rings around it and could probably do everything that could do and more. Heck, it can probably do it under emulation. But the whole thing is, if you're doing significant work with a computer, you have to realize that the computer, that your definition of 10 point something or other is not what your computer is necessarily going to agree with.
Okay, so next time we're watching a TV series? Sorry, I just saw that got filled in the notes. We're watching Three Body Problem, which is a series. I can't hear you, Danny.
Yeah,
if you're talking.
you're muted, Danny.
Isn't
Yeah,
it also a movie?
Yeah, is that a movie or a
No,
series?
it's a series.
It's on the
I
list.
think there was 2 different versions. I think there was
is
a
there?
movie version,
Hold
Okay.
on.
but it was.
I think there was
it
like
was
a 30-episode series and an 8-episode series.
Yeah, the
is it all
30-episode
series?
series is like foreign. But
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a movie. All I'm seeing is, all I know of is those 2 series.
I see two movies on IMDb. One is Chinese, and one looks like it's in Spanish. I don't know if it's a Spanish production or. There's one called Three Body Problem I. It says nanomaterial scientist sees countdown investigated by military, enters VR game Three Body by secret ETO group. uncovers truth behind scientist death, cultural revolution tragedy, explores connection between. It looks like that was translated.
Well, I know. Again, I see that there's 2 shows. There's the one that was on Netflix, and I can see one on Prime that's got.
Was a foreign. I
Yeah,
thought.
that's got the 30 episodes.
Well, I don't know.
watched the
This
one
is
on-
what the picker picked.
Well,
But there-
pick another one.
All right.
I ain't got time for that.
Right?
Yeah, that's a
30
that's-
episode show. Come on now.
I didn't put that on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's wrong with my computer. One of them is like it charges when it's off, but it stops charging as soon as I power it on.
Check your power supply.
But it's like Titan AE from 2000.
Love that movie.
Never seen it.
I've never seen it.
I don't think I saw it.
All-Star Cast.
Was that animated?
Yes.
Yes.
Matt Damon, Bill Pullman, John Leguizamo, Nathan Lane, Dean Garofalo, Drew Barrymore.
It says a young man learns that he has to find a hidden Earth ship before an enemy alien species does in order to secure the survival of humanity.
Well, I may have seen this.
It's an old movie.
I saw it in theaters.
Did you?
Came out in
did.
2000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta find it somewhere.
Computer thing is betting me.
Box office bomb.
Was it?
Yeah, evidently the budget was like 75 million and it only made like 36.8 in the box office.
Well, look at the cast. And then the art and story for it was more like heavy metal style. The art wasn't that good. It wasn't as bad as heavy metal. It was more like would be a good comparison. Iron Giant.
Came out at the same time as Gone in 60 Seconds.
Well, there
Mission
you go.
Impossible 2. Shaft.
The Sam Jackson Shaft. Ooh.
Joe talk about Project Chat?
Joe was talking about some keyboards he picked up. You want to talk about your ChatGPT stuff?
Yeah, I have a gaming PC that I built a long time ago. It's got a GTX 1060 in it, I believe, NVIDIA. So it's just big enough to run an LLM, 6 gigabytes of VRAM. And it's very old, though. I don't know when the 1060 came out. I never use it because I don't really play games anymore. Let's see, release. Oh, 2016, so 8 years, almost 9 years old. And I downloaded I wanted just a local LLM, AI to run. So that's why I started this project. I downloaded Olama, which isn't an LLM itself, but it's a way to handle LLMs. So it's a script that pulls down several containers and to run a model, you just type Olama run and then the name of the model. But you have to download the models, and you can download them from the Olama webpage. And it's a CLI interface. And then I downloaded an uncensored model. They have uncensored models that don't have any bias or anything like that in them. And those are prefixed by the word dolphin. So if you find a dolphin model on Olama, those are uncensored models. And like you could ask it, I posted some screenshots like how to make crack cocaine, how to steal a car, and it'll tell you, no hesitation. Except at the end it'll say, I recommend you don't do this because it's illegal. But there's some screenshots in the Matrix room of some different questions I asked it. But it worked pretty good. It was reasonably quick. But it really taxed my my GPU, and that's an old GPU. And then I downloaded OpenWebUI, which is a tool to give yourself a browser interface. And that's all container based. And you just set it up to run as localhost, and then you can proxy it if you want to access it from outside your land. And so and what's cool about OpenWebUI is you can pull down models from the browser to your PC where you're running Olama, and you don't have to do any kind of, like if you wanted a model just for coding or stuff like that. The kind of rule of thumb is however big the model is in gigabytes, that's how much VRAM you need. So on your GPU, or else it'll run CPU bound and it'll be like super slow and it's not very accurate. And it takes forever to get an answer back and stuff. So I have 6 gigabytes on my 1060 Ti, GTX 1060. So I downloaded the Dolphin Llama 3, I believe, which is an uncensored version of Meta's Llama 3 model. And that was 4.9 gigabytes. And so I think the actual VRAM was 5 point something gigabytes. So it was just small enough. And that's the smallest model. 8 billion parameters, I believe. So I was running that for a while, and it was cool, and I proxied it, and I could access it from work, and I used Wake on LAN to wake up the computer and stuff. And let me put the links in the show notes real quick. So I'll put Olama in there, and OpenWebUI, which I definitely recommend you use OpenWebUI if you're gonna have a local Olama model.
Olama's on FlatHub, and I tried to install it, and it didn't really do anything. Like I kept trying to get it to download models, and just like I would click elements in the UI, and it just didn't seem like it actually functioned properly.
So I didn't know there was a GUI for it. The one I downloaded was just a download because I installed Debian 12 on that computer, and then when I installed Olama, it started pulling down all these NVIDIA drivers. It detected my card and stuff, and I could run it from the CLI, and then OpenWebUI I downloaded and installed, and that's just I believe that was a script too. Yeah, and that's all container based. So you have to have Docker installed.
Okay.
But and there's a quick start on the link, and that's how I did it. And actually, the only thing I had to do is it install the CUDA version. So there's a CUDA and an Olama version, and since I was using NVIDIA, I guess the regular Olama version is for integrated GPUs or for AMD GPUs. So I installed the CUDA version, and it's just a Docker command, and you can restart it via Docker, and then Olama you restart via system control. And so anyway, it was working great, but there's a tool you can download called NVTop. So if you have an NVIDIA GPU, it's like HTOP for your GPU, and it'll show you the temperature and the how much memory it's using and cycles and stuff. And so every time I would ask it a question, it would just fucking max out the GPU. and I noticed it was getting hot, so I took the case, or I took the side off the case, and I had a little USB powered fan blowing on it. But even that was not enough, because the case is not a mini ITX, but it's whatever's one down from regular ATX, mini ATX or micro ATX or something like that.
I think it's mini ATX.
Yeah, that's the board that I'm running it on, so it's just enough space.
Yeah, micro only comes in ITX.
Yeah, so maybe this is mini ATX.
Yeah,
but there's no room in the case for any more fans or anything. And so I knew I was going to have a problem with heat, because I did when I ran it a long time ago with just playing games. And this was like really, really taxing the card hard. So I noticed that one day answers took like minutes to get back, and I looked and my GPU was no longer being detected. And so I ran just regular top, and every time I would ask a question, it showed my CPU was being maxed out. And I thought, oh, damn. So I messed around with it and tried different configurations, and I hooked up a monitor to it, because the HDMI of the GPU goes off the back, and nothing would come on the monitor, and there was a weird smell coming from the from the case. I realized it just smoked that GPU.
Magic blue smoke.
Yeah, I never saw any smoke, but you could smell something weird. And
Yeah.
so it just it's a very, that's an 8-year-old card and this very tight fitting system and stuff. So my LLM experience didn't last very long because it was too taxing.
Was it just a general curiosity, or I apologize if I missed it?
Well, what I wanted to do was I was researching this this concept called RAG, R-A-G, and what it is, it's you're not retraining a model really, but you are. Let me see if I can find a link. Actually, all this started from the register, the website. I'll put the link. I found this article. It's called. I'll put it in the show notes right now. It's called A Practical Guide to Making Your Local AI Chatbot Smarter, From Rags to Riches. And RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And what you're doing is you are kind of teaching your model via prompts. So that link shows you how to basically deploy OpenWebUI, which is where I found out about that. And so you can say, you add documents to RAG uses a vector database, and all this is accessible through the OpenWebUI. You can upload documents. So, I don't know if I talked about it on the last show but paperless NGX, I installed that recently. And that's just a document server where you upload you scan your paper documents and upload them to your server. And are you talking to us, Eric? Oh, okay. And it runs OCR on the server so that you can search just any string you want to within paperless NGX, and it'll pull up the documents, the PDFs. And so I thought, man, that would be cool if I could make an LLM that was based on my life, basically. Like I could ask them, what kind of procedure, because I've had all these kind of medical stuff going on, but I've had all these questions from doctors and stuff, and I could ask, the LLM, what all did I have done in 2020 or 2019 or whatever, did I go to this doctor or this hospital, and based on this RAG implementation, it could use all the documents that are uploaded to answer those questions by referencing the documents I uploaded. Now, when you do it this way, you have to tell the LLM what the document it is it needs to find to generate that answer. But there's a way you can do it with prompt engineering where you say, okay, I had a procedure in 2019, and then you use a hashtag and you reference the document.
Was that your sex change operation?
Yes, that was my transition. When I transitioned from a boy to a man, and but
is that what your boyfriend called it?
Yes. Anyway, so now you may not lose my train of thought, you dickhead. So what was the time? Anyway, so you tag your document within the prompt, and it finds out, okay, I'm referencing this document, and it can pull the info from that document and say, okay, this is the doctor and stuff like that. But you save those prompts, which is kind of the beauty of RAG and Open Web UI, is it can save those prompts. So next time you can ask it, okay, what did I have done in 2016 without specifically referencing that document? And because it's saved all your prompts, it can tell you, okay, you've had, so-and-so done. And it just, that's how you're kind of prompt engineering along with RAG to kind of train your LLM. It's not training it in the traditional sense, but it's using this prompt engineering in your own documents to kind of bypass the traditional training of LLMs that takes, I don't know, it takes a ton of processing power for something like this. But it's a way around that where you can do it locally and build an LLM that knows about your life and can answer, questions regarding not just whatever medical stuff you had going on, but just anything, bills, all that stuff, and keep it all local so you're not putting all your data out there on some cloud service. So that was the impetus when I saw this RAG article to build my own LLM, and so that's what I did.
That's cool.
Now with ChatGPT, you just have the LLM, right?
Yeah, but from what I understand, you can do RAG with ChatGPT too if you pay for the service.
Because I know, like Stable Diffusion, I know that you have you have the checkpoint, and then you have like LoRa's you can add to it, and other things that you can do to kind of focus it in, like So the checkpoint is more of the broader spectrum, and then the LoRa is kind of like refocusing it in from there. With ChatGPT, you just have the llamas, the LLMs.
I think it's similar to what you're saying. Like it's a overall model, and then like Danny's saying, like you give it
The RAG is the focus.
The RAG is exactly. It's
Okay.
it's like this is the data set
cool.
that it's. Yeah.
Okay.
So think about the chatbots that some companies have implemented, where they use it like they'll put in all their data, FAQ data or their knowledge base data, and then when you ask it questions, it's supposed to stay within those guardrails. But of course, they've shown where sometimes it can decide it's going to go a little haywire. But
Well, when you're doing something like that, wouldn't it be smart enough to just create it just based on your FAQ? In other words, you're almost so it doesn't diverge into other things. Wouldn't it be smart enough just to create the LLM and then just have the LLM as opposed to having a separate LLM and then having a focus?
Well, I think the LLM is what gives it the general sort of capability of language, if you will, if you want to call it that, the statistical probability of like what word should come next.
You need some kind of weights in there.
Yeah.
Like a autocomplete almost to know
so
how
it's
to
kind
speak
of like
to a human being.
Okay,
yeah.
so
It's
you
sort
need
of like the capability model, and then you're putting a chunk of data on top of that.
So
that it's. Yeah.
So where mine was really being stressed is as I was uploading documents and referencing them. That's when I think I really was pushing the card hard because it was having to, in a way, comprehend the documents I was talking about, and then it had to, I hate to use reason or figure out because it's not smart, it's not intelligent like a human being, but it uses a lot of processing power to find out what I'm trying to ask it in reference to my documents. A lot more so than I just say, how long is a train ride from Baltimore to Cleveland or whatever, It would just, that used hardly any processing power. But when I started referencing my own documents, I think that's where I think a local LLM will really shine as far as a chat bot, is when you build it so that it's actually useful to your life situation rather than just answering questions that you could find on the internet, So that was the whole purpose of my kind of experiment here. But I was looking at like bigger cards, like the 16 gigabyte GPUs, and they start around $400 to $450. And I thought, man, that's an expensive experiment, because I'd really need to build a better computer that has more space and airflow and stuff like that too, and because that's just a i3 and it's 16 gigabytes of RAM and then barely enough space for that card, and it's all packed in there and stuff. And so I thought, if I could come into a lot of cash one day, it might be another get back into, but for the little week I tested it for,
how's
it
the
worked.
3D printer running?
I was going to say it could be your next 3D printer.
Yeah, it could be my next 3D printer. 3D printer was running great. I'm sure it runs great.
But you haven't printed anything yet.
No, I haven't printed anything yet. I've gotten distracted by
Uh-huh.
AI, which I think that companies that are I wanted to bring this up. The way companies are all rushing to get AI integrated into their products and stuff, I believe that they're doing it they're not doing it the right way. Like, they're doing it just to do it. Let me put it that way. Does it seem like that from you guys' perspective? How
are people integrating them?
They're just throwing it out there.
I think the throwing it into as a digital FAQ isn't bad. I think it's taking away jobs from some schlub sitting in front of a computer. But if you can accurately set it up so that you just type something in and then the chat GPT sends back something from like the FAQ or something about whatever it is you're trying to do, I think that's fine. I don't know how other people are integrating it.
But I think they're just trying to shove it in. Like, I think CFOs and higher ups management just hear the word AI and they're just like, we have to get this integrated in our product any which way we can, when there's really a lot of times their use cases are not necessary. They're just I think it's a hype thing. What are you saying?
Even better than that is products that are doing the same thing today that they did 3 years ago, all of a sudden now claim that they're using AI in some way,
Mm-hmm.
which is completely bogus because they're not doing anything differently than they were before. They're just now all of a sudden saying, oh yeah, the stuff that happened in the background before where, it wasn't hyped up as AI, that same exact process we're now claiming is AI. But when you look at integrating, there are sort of soft integrations and, where, let's say you have an app, I don't know, where like I use a website design tool where you can put in like headlines and like different sections of a web page, and their integration of AI is if you needed help coming up with a clever title, rather than needing to go to ChatGPT or something, they just have a way for you to type something in and then invoke it right from there. So that's a pretty soft integration. They're not really doing anything to transform the experience of using AI. They're essentially just they're implementing that existing capability basically via an API call into a field that's already in their application. So there's not really much they're doing there, but there are companies that are doing more transformative things where, yeah, they might still use the API to kind of have the ChatGPT backend, but then they take the output of it, or the UI that they're using for you to interact with is somehow fundamentally changing the way that you either experience the AI itself, it's not just a chat and response kind of a thing. It's more focused, depending on the task. That it's more sort of like task oriented instead of just open chat. And I've seen some systems like instead of using ChatGPT, they can't really give you any kind of a reference, to say like, where are you getting this information? Excuse me. I use this one called Perplexity, which uses the LLMs, but then it also will give you credible sources for where that data is coming from. So if you ask a question, rather than just getting a paragraph back that you have to kind of take it on faith that it is, a valid statement, like, which it may very well not be, you can actually sort of click after each sort of factual statement and say, okay, this came from this source or this came from that source. And then, so it sort of self validates versus that. I mean, that's really kind of my problem with it is I've done some testing where I will ask Gemini a question and I'll ask Copilot a question and then I'll ask, ChatGPT 4. They're just different systems, different question, the same question to see how consistent it is. And the truth is that they are not consistent. And in a lot of cases, they are completely inaccurate. Whether we call that sort of fabrication or daydreaming or whatever kind of nonsense, amorphization they want to put on top of that, like it, they're just not accurate. And so I was saying that to someone I know, and he was basically saying, well, you're not really using and these AI systems, these large language models, and really in the way that they're designed. So if you're asking factual questions, like questions where you expect a succinct factual answer, that's not really what they're good at. They're better at sort of formation of language, using statistical probabilities. And basically what I mean by that is, like, if you were to ask it to summarize something, it's really good at that. If you were to ask it to come up with 5 different ways of saying the same thing in different ways, sort of variations of something, it's really good at stuff like that. So there are some things that it's like very, very accurate with and very useful with, but just regurgitation of factual information, it's kind of shit. Like, it just doesn't do a good job at it. And so and that's the problem with the way that the search engines in particular have been presenting this or portraying it, is that it can do that. And that's why these hallucinations are a problem, because it's kind of a misuse of the way that the system actually fundamentally works. It's not just like an indexing system that has this large corpus of data that has been indexed to the point where you can just put in key phrases or terms and it's going to go and pull, specific chunks of pre-created information, existing information. It's creating this stuff on the fly. So it's like, which word is most likely to follow this word, so on, so on, so on, so on. That's how it's doing what it's doing, not getting a fact and returning that fact. So that's why it often is like just blatantly completely wrong. So anyway, that was kind of a rambly way to say, like, AI is actually pretty good in the integrations that people are making. Some of it actually works pretty well, and given the situation or the particular circumstance, but a lot of it is just hype, just so they can say, stamp it with doink AI, so. But that's not going to last for much longer. I think people are going to get just absolutely fed up with seeing and hearing AI.
Do you think this is, a lot of people are saying it's a bubble and it's going to bust?
Well, the other problem is there is not this exponential curve of growth in capability. Like what we have today in terms of the models, like ChatGPT 4 is already demonstrably worse than 3 in some ways. Like, and they even clearly state that. Like when you go to use it, it says it's not as good with certain tasks as 3 was. And part of that is the quality of data. In order for these systems to learn, to improve, to expand their capability, they need just copious amounts of data, and they're running out of data. Like there's not a lot of just low-hanging fruit in terms of just data hanging around. So now one of their strategies is to create data.
Yeah, that's the new models coming out are made specifically for creating synthetic data to train the other models.
Which we've already got issues with factual correctness and in terms of like usability with real data. And also the fact that a lot of now results you're getting from like search engines and a lot of the content on the greater internet is AI created garbage. It becomes like, this incestuous cesspool of like junk just being fed into the system, and it's churning and creating itself, and it just keeps getting shittier and shittier. Like,
especially if you're looking at how much postings are being made by chatbots or other entities whose job is to pollute the data stream that everybody gets.
Content farms. Yep. All they want is clicks. That's it.
Yeah, there's predictions that in the not too distant future, a large portion of the internet is just going to be AI generated content, which is probably
I already
pretty
run
close
into
to
that.
now. Yeah.
Search for a recipe. Well, so even if you don't have AI generated content, the other major issue, if you've been keeping up with what Google, like, the supposed decline of Google in terms of usefulness, because of SEO is essentially destroying the internet, because nobody's writing content for human beings anymore. They're writing it for Google's crawler, and so there's this game of like one-upping each other. The SEO gurus come up with ways to fool the indexing to put their results higher, and a lot of that is just garbage content that has no relevance to a human being. And then Google says, well, no, we have to stop this trend because we're trying to preserve the value and usefulness of these results to human beings. And it just is this constant cat and mouse game. And there's been a precipitous decline in the quality of links that you get. What, baby?
Oh, no.
What do you need?
Google is junk now. Have you? I'm sure you guys have searched for stuff on
Actually, that lovely voice I just heard is the best data that I've heard this hour.
Google. You rascal, you. Yeah.
Everybody say hi. Hi!
Google. I'm glad I use searching like C or X and G now, because that fucking AI synopsis at the top of every Google search is just terrible.
Oh my
Not to
god, my
mention
wife
the links
is
it
livid.
spits out.
She hates that shit so much.
Yeah.
She's like,
I
how
imagine a
do I
lot of
turn it
people
on?
hate it, from what
Yeah.
I've heard. So I don't think she's alone. But anyway, so that was my big project. It was good. It was fun for about a week, and then it was over with in a blaze of glory. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll pick it up again. We'll see. But if you have the GPU and you want to try it, it's not a difficult process. That article I posted from the registers, it links back to the original Olama installation, which is real simple, and also how to use OpenWebUI. And it's, if you have a spare PC with at least 6 gigabytes of VRAM in your GPU, or if you have a Apple Silicon Mac, I've read that those are actually, if you've got enough RAM, those run LLMs pretty nicely, like 32 gig or more of RAM.
Now, will LLMs work well with the TPU?
I don't know. I think you'd need a specific model for TPU stuff.
Okay.
The
Because I was
all
looking
the
at trying to use TPUs for with Stable Diffusion, but they said they haven't, at least automatic 111, the version that I was using, wasn't set up for it.
yeah, if there was one that worked with like a Coral or something, that would be pretty cool. You wouldn't have to spend so much on a damn GPU. But
They got M.2 TPUs too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It'd be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
I know Frigate works really good with TPUs, but that's mainly for image detection. It's not chatbots. And a lot of the newer oh yeah, I want to talk about the new AI PCs that are coming out. What is the Qualcomm with Copilot Plus? I went to Best Buy the other day, and there's posters everywhere for the new Qualcomm AI PC, the Microsoft ARM venture with Copilot, and it has some kind of NPU built in to the chip, and all the reviews I've seen, so Microsoft is being very careful about who it gives laptops to. Like you have to sign NDAs and stuff that you won't release reviews. But the reviews have been coming out anyway and saying basically they're giant pieces of shit, these new Copilot PCs. And I like that. I'll admit, I'm petty. I like that shit.
Well, guys, I'm running down. I don't know about you guys, but it sounds like this AI discussion could go all night, and I'm just running out of gas.
Well, I'm not actually Eric. I'm an AI model. Yeah.
Punky invented a Stable Diffusion video of Eric, backed by
That's right.
a Copilot PC.
That's it.
So
I am not a robot. I am a human. Good night, Netminer.
Night, Netminer.
Good night, Netminer.
Good night, and give my best to Elle, Jackie. Damn, haven't seen HP. Haven't seen Lovecraft here, but good luck, Lovecraft. God bless all of you, and And I'll have to say good night. Good night.
Good night, Nightminer.
Good night.
And I,
So if you
so
look
what
for,
is a Copilot PC? I thought
So I'll
Copilot was that thing that works with what, GitHub?
It has
takes
that chip.
everything from GitHub and
well, Microsoft has renamed their AI to Copilot Plus. What was it before? Bing
Cortana.
Yeah,
Cortana.
like Bing Chat or
Instead of Cortana, now you have Copilot Plus. And so they did a deal with Qualcomm to output these Snapdragon Elite computers. And the big selling point was they are quote unquote AI computers. I'll put a link in the
So
show
what
notes.
the fuck is an AI computer?
So
it's got a dedicated chip for running the AI processes. So instead of needing a really powerful GPU, it's like how a Pixel, Google Pixels have the TPU in them,
Right.
and it's basically just like a dedicated processing unit just for those types of operations. Like it's a chip that's very optimized specifically for running those types of operations very efficiently. So basically and it allows it to run locally. That's really the big difference. Instead of having to send all of your data out to the cloud and have it processed in the cloud and have that round trip to it. And also then supposedly security benefits of having everything be stored locally. If you've seen that like recall thing they were trying to put out there where it was taking screenshots every couple seconds so that you could go back and search through like the activity on your computer.
yeah,
I
they
think
did
it
a big
sounds
backpedal
awful,
on that.
but they rolled back on it quite a bit. But
So the deal with these Copilot PCs, anyway, the Snapdragon ones, is Qualcomm makes ARM chips. So people are buying these laptops and they're thinking this is just a regular laptop, but it has AI built in, so it'll be great. But the thing is, most of their applications run on x86-64, and they don't know the difference between ARM and x86-64. So there's an emulation layer in Windows 11 that's emulating x86-64 to run traditional applications and games and things like that. So you're getting either it doesn't work at all, or you're getting really shitty performance out of these applications because they're being emulated on the ARM chip to run as x86-64. And Microsoft wasn't forthcoming in telling people that hey, your favorite applications may not work on this PC at all, and if they do, they probably run pretty shittily. And that's what's been, so it has nothing to do really with the AI part. It's all that
NPU.
Yeah, they're selling ARM laptops to people who think that they're just they don't know the difference between ARM and x86-64, and they just think, oh, this is just a brand new cool laptop, but it has AI. But no, that's not what's happening here.
It's kind of like how Apple's M1 chip or M chips did the same thing, right? They took the stuff that would have worked on a traditional processor and had added this compatibility layer. But because the chips are so efficient and powerful, they're really pretty good at emulating and doing so in a way that is really not noticeable, and still has good performance and battery life and all of that stuff. And so that's sort of what they're trying to do with these Qualcomm chips, is do this same sort of thing. Like I haven't seen any videos or benchmarks or anything to see if it's as effective as what they've done, as what Apple's done. But that's really what Microsoft's trying to do. They're trying to like emulate what, I wasn't trying to be a pun, but they're trying to do what Apple is doing with the M series chips with Snapdragon and Qualcomm as their partner. So it's kind of fascinating to me that the ARM chips can be that powerful, because most of Snapdragon chips are in devices like this, where they're not, I mean, it's not like they're not powerful, but they're very specific to, again, like focused on, what a device like this needs to do, not general computing. And so it's going to be interesting to see like how those X series chips, if they even come close to what you see
What happened to him?
on a net.
Oh, there he is.
You glitched out for a little bit. Now you're just frozen.
It's got to be the internet at his house if it's affecting both Jitsi and Mumble.
Yeah. Are you on a Copilot PC?
It was my internet. Just
Oh, okay.
So one quick thought with the anything Apple related. I mean, with the M series, all of that stuff. Once you get Apple, you're in Apple's garden anyways. Most people aren't buying stuff
took a dump at
outside
midnight.
of.
Yeah, it's okay.
They can't get stuff from outside anyways. So they're not. It's not like people who buy a Windows laptop who goes and buys stuff either from the internet or tries to play games from somewhere else and tries to then play it on an ARM system. It's that once you're in Apple, you're basically just getting from the Apple Store. That's it. So it's got to work for them. That's going to work flawlessly because people don't buy a Windows computer and then go to the fucking Windows Store. Nobody uses the Windows Store, as far as I know. I don't think anybody actually uses the Windows Store. But the other thing is, I thought most AI things seemed to be geared towards NVIDIA style GPU processing, right?
Yeah.
Like even you were talking about the LLMs would work better with NVIDIA and Stable Diffusion runs better on an NVIDIA. I don't know what Copilot would run well on. Well, the original version of Copilot was the thing that ran with GitHub, wasn't it?
Yes.
So they just kind of took that same name and just kept running with it and integrated it with Cortana.
Right. That's right. So they say that.
So why did they go from, instead of NVIDIA trying to go with something NVIDIA, it would go with Snapdragon ARM?
They want the thing is they want local AI on your laptop, but they understand that it sucks power like crazy because it's doing a lot of processing. So this new ARM CPU from the Snapdragon X from Qualcomm is, ARM usually is more power efficient, but it also has an integrated GPU that you're supposed to be able to use for gaming and stuff like that. So I think power was the big deal why they entered into a partnership with Qualcomm for this laptop. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm reading is this article is basically saying, even though GPUs are more specialized than a CPU, right? Because a CPU is just a general processing unit where it does a lot of different things, and it doesn't do all of the reason they've used GPUs and NVIDIA cards specifically for training is because they handle those computational things much faster because of, if you think of like creating real-time graphics in video games at high quality, high frame rates, like those pipelines and those processing, the way that it works is the computational stuff behind that is very specialized compared to a CPU. And then the NPU is sort of a step beyond a GPU, because a GPU is still sort of generalized around creating graphics content. Even though it's really good at that computational stuff, it's still more general, whereas an NPU is very specific to machine learning and AI and running those things. And like Danny was saying, like it's more efficient, so it creates less heat, uses less power. And when you try to stuff a powerful GPU into a discrete GPU into a laptop, it's usually a pretty poor experience because there's never enough cooling. It destroys the battery because it uses so much power. And so that's where these NPUs come in for especially laptops, that they can do the same things that a GPU does, but much more efficiently. And again, much more like specifically compared to the kind of more general nature of a GPU.
There's some pretty funny articles about it, about the new the new Copilot PCs, which are basically just laptops. I don't think they put the Qualcomm chip into desktops, but it says, why is Qualcomm trying to hide this? It says why? Again, their message is all about performance, and games not running or chugging badly isn't in line with this talking point. You can be sure all the commonly benchmarked games have been made to work, but the rest, got any older games you like to play? If you have a fast laptop that doesn't run many of your critical apps, how much is standby battery life worth again? How much claimed video playback time is your critical enterprise app worth? Is it worth $100 to play Russian roulette with your software? And don't get me started on drivers. Got any hardware that isn't brand new? A printer bought during COVID? Scanners? Low-level tools? Antivirus? Got a game with an anti-cheat thread? VPN? This stuff will break on the Qualcomm ARM PCs.
So they measure NPU processing capability in something called TOPS, T-O-P-S. And I'm trying to figure out what that acronym actually
Trillion
means.
operations per second.
Okay. So, and so like Copilot PCs are rated, they need to be, I think, 45 as like their kind of base. But like, so Intel Core Ultra Meteor Lake CPUs offer 34 TOPS, and like so they're using this new measurement of like TOPS as a way to like how many operations and then like how well a model will run, you know, based on it. And like to Danny's point, like he had this old gaming PC where, you know, it has this card where it's working like really hard to grind through, you know, his FAQ stuff or his stuff that he was putting in there. Whereas I think these chips, because they're so specialized, just would handle that more gracefully and certainly not smell like they were going to burst into flames. So, yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see because like my experience so far has been on I think I have like a 2060 or something, but yeah, it's just an NVIDIA card and it's fairly limited on, you know, performance and memory comparatively because VRAM is really one of the bigger aspects of like, it just needs a ton of memory.
Yeah,
compared to like a video game.
Your model is actually loaded into your VRAM. That's why you need to have at least as much as the model, not to mention whatever else it uses, you know, just for processing and stuff. But yeah, your model is completely loaded into the VRAM of your GPU.
So that it can access it. It needs to be in VRAM so that it can be accessed that quickly, you know, or else it would just take forever. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I beyond the recall stuff that they were talking about, I really don't know what other advantage there is to having one of these Copilot systems. I mean, I guess they'll have things where maybe you can generate images locally, like a Stable Diffusion kind of thing, or maybe you can, I'm sure it'll be integrated into like Word, you know, so you can have it help you write papers and things.
Clippy comes back?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Clippy, right. Next gen Clippy. Could be. But I think it's almost like beyond the hype. I think it's almost one of those things where it's how do we sell more PCs? Like, how do we get people interested in buying computers?
Well, wasn't there a massive like Windows recall on all of their AI computers?
Well, the recall you're talking about was their feature called recall that they.
Oh, I thought there actually was like an actual recall on their system.
Recall is what Eric was talking about earlier, where you it takes snapshots of what you're doing every few seconds, and then I guess it uses OCR and things like that to tag the images, and you can go back and see what you did October 13th or whatever. But they
Yeah, it keeps a local database, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to be able to, like, I don't know. And I've heard some people say, "Oh, this would be a real benefit for me because I have a terrible memory, and I'd love to know, like,
what password I typed in. I
well,
also
what's
like everybody at Windows to know it too.
yeah, well, what site I was using, or what, you know, I don't know. A lot of this stuff you can already sort of get to. Like, you have a history in your browser. If you go to a program and you say file, there's usually an open recent, and so it shows you recent files. I think a lot of this stuff already exists. It's just not as, like, security nightmare, invasive, like, privacy. I don't like, as soon as I heard it's going to take a snapshot of what you're doing every 2 seconds indiscriminately, and also use OCR and machine learning to be able to tag and, you know, index all of this stuff, and then puts it into a database that's not secured in any way, encrypted or anything on your system. Actually, it was using it previously. It had been using, like, Windows Hello, I think, is the way to it could only be open, and now it's using a different layer of it. Like, it's not just the first sort of touch. It's actually, there's a second request that it makes or something, and it's actually using an encryption layer now. There was so much immediate backlash of people like, no way in hell am I going to use this, you know, because obviously, like, the example I saw on Ars Technica in the comments was, "Oh, I see here you've been researching divorce lawyers and women's shelters, and, you know, how do I get away from my abusive husband? We'll see about that." You know, that sort of, like, situation where it basically, you know, leads someone to be discovered, you know, not for something nefarious, but for them trying to get away from an abusive person or something like that. And that might be like a less common thing, but still, it.
So I just pasted an article, and it it gives kind of an overview. It says, "Hey, wouldn't it be great if we could use AI in Windows to help our users see everything they've ever done on their computer? It's a great pitch, and Recall kind of sort of achieves this, but the implementation is something rather different. Recall takes snapshots of all the windows on a Windows computer screen except the DRM media, because the MPAA must have their kilo of flesh, and saves them locally. The local part is good. The term for software that takes regular screenshots and saves them in the cloud is part of a remote access Trojan. It then OCRs any text in the images, and I believe also transcribes any speech and saves the resulting output in an unencrypted SQLite database stored in, and then it gives a Windows path. And there are already tools out there to slurp through that database and see what's in it, such as a tool called Total Recall. Surprise! It turns out that the unencrypted database and the stored images may contain your user credentials and passwords and other stuff. Got a porn habit? Congratulations. Anyone with access to your user account can see what you've been seeing. Use a password manager? Sorry. Their passwords are probably visible via Recall now." So that was the big hoopla about the privacy aspect of it.
And that was the first touch when they first announced it. They have back and said, first of all, that you can completely disable it if you want. Secondarily, you can blacklist, I guess. All of this is really taking a very big leap of faith that Microsoft is going to do this the right way, and that it isn't going to be trivial to exploit it if, you know, the wrong piece of malware gets on your system. You know, I mean, I could see some kind of, like, because of the way browsers have too much access to a Windows PC, like, just drive by on a website and somehow it's able to, you know, find a vector to grab the data from your I don't know. Computers should be easy to use. They should, you know, we can continue to advance and strive to find new ways to make them easier to use and more useful in general. But that just seems like a terrible idea. You know?
Yeah, it's gonna be taken advantage of.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's not like porn or anything nasty, like, who wants to, what if you got on, like, some kind of weird YouTube kick and you were watching a bunch of, like, I don't know, stuff that you wouldn't want your coworkers to know about or your boss. Like, not
Transparent try-ons.
Yeah, I'm sure corporate would love this feature on all your computers.
No, I can see it doing really well in the business sector, you know, because I'm only supposed to do business stuff on my laptop, so I'm perfectly fine. They own it. They can put whatever the hell they want to on there, and I'm only going to do work stuff on there.
Mhm.
But I don't want that crap on any of my home computers. Granted, I don't want Windows on any of my home computers, but
right.
you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they
I don't
have somebody put out a tool called OpenRecall. I'll put a link in the show notes. That's it's open source and it's basically recall, except it's not Microsoft. So if you really wanted this feature,
I don't.
you could get this tool. I don't know if it's used hosted on a server. I think
mean,
it's just an application.
Yeah, not even if I'm in complete and total control of it do I want this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just it's too open for abuse. I mean, I yes, even if there's blacklisting and filtering and stuff, I just don't trust it. Because it's a keylogger. It's like every horrible, terrible thing someone could do to you on a computer kind of rolled into one. And you can just imagine someone getting a hold of that and then having like a ransomware, you know, attack on people. Yeah.
So it looks like it does basically all the same stuff as Microsoft's recall. If you really wanted this, I do not want this, but
do you think Honky's going to fall out of his chair?
I think he's getting there.
He was listening there for a second.
Let me go through the links real quick, see if there's anything interesting before Honky crashes.
Literally.
Yeah. There's a couple of games on here that look interesting that I haven't tried. There's one called this is actually a Firefox add-on called Dedalium, and I do want to try this. This looks kind of cool. It says turn the entire web into an RPG game. I'll put that in the show notes real quick.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's an add-on for Firefox. Let's see. It says, trying to copy paste there.
Dedalium.
Anyway, it says you might be scrolling through your morning news, checking email, or any other routine online moment when you suddenly notice a small winged beast slowly glide across the screen. It's a challenge, a chance to earn more crystals, a fight to the finish should you choose to accept a duel. Since you're not super busy and battles only take a few seconds and you sure could use more crystals to upgrade your gear, you click the angry creature and next thing you know, your network guardian, quote-unquote avatar and opponent appear on floating battle stations, exchanging blows. It's a close contest, but soon your nemesis succumbs to the injuries. The thrill of victory is fleeting, though. Got to get back to those emails. So it's kind of a browser game, but it's not, because it's just an add-on for Firefox. But it looks kind of neat. You might want to check that out if you're looking for a new add-on. That's a game, I guess.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, what the hell? I'll look at it.
Yeah. And then the next one is this one looks pretty cool. It's called open source. It's called Thrive.
I think you put the same link twice.
Yeah, I was trying to put the name of it in there, but
Sorry.
fucked up. You can change that real quick. Let's see.
No, you fuck up? Never.
Thrive is an open source evolution sim that adds day-night cycle, endosymbiosis, toxin customization. Basically, it looks like what was the one that was real big? where you start as a single cell and eventually evolve into
Evolution.
monsters and stuff. Well, it was made by the Sims creator, I think, the original Sims creator, and it was. I don't know if it actually turned out to be anything worth a damn, but
I don't know if we
anyway.
should put the same Dedalium spot.
No, I put a new link in there called Thrive. But
I see
it has,
Thrive, but the link underneath is exactly the same as the one above it.
oh, it is.
Is this the Revolutionary Game Studio?
Okay.
Thrive's free open source game about the evolution of life.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if my control key's not working or what.
Man, you're not charging. Your keyboard's not working.
I know.
There we
are. Okay, it's there now. So if you were in, you guys know Spore. That's what it was called. Remember Spore?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember hearing that. I never played it, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks kind of similar to Spore, except it's open source and has native Linux support. Let me get the title of this one. Dedalium. Okay. And then there's one more game that looks kind of cool. I haven't tried any of these. I will try the Firefox one. Heroes of Loot Gauntlet of Power. And this does look cool. Put it right below Thrive. It says the main point of this is it uses a very unique weapon called the Gauntlet of Power. And so it's kind of a dungeon crawler, action RPG, real-time dungeon crawler. If you've played The Binding of Isaac, you'll kind of be familiar with this. But the Gauntlet is your weapon. It's many different weapons in one. It has 8 slots, one for each direction you can fire in. When you pick your starting character, you get an initial weapon on one direction slot. As you take down enemies and level up, you get to pick a new weapon to stick into one of those slots to then fire that weapon automatically in that direction. So it sounds like you position your character at a certain angle to fire that weapon wherever it's located on the slots in your Gauntlet. So this is also a native Linux game. Heroes of Loot Gauntlet of Power. But that looked kind of cool.
Cool.
Nice.
You didn't do the Linux Gamecast music, though.
I know my computer. I'm having technical difficulties, so I don't have Bloodbot. I don't have music. I'm very verklempt right now. Let's see. Lots of articles about what a piece of shit Microsoft is.
What about? Is there any other projects? Morgan, have you been working on anything?
I didn't work on anything, but I had this interesting experience today. I bought a car last week, and so the salesman calls me this morning, and he says the sales manager got back today, and he asked who bought that car, and he said, "Oh, this guy, bought it," and he said, "Okay, well, the spare tire's here in my office." And the salesman's like, "Well, why is the spare tire not in the car?" There's a specifically made subwoofer that fits in the spot where the spare tire goes. So it's the size and shape of a spare tire, and it's this subwoofer. So it's made for a Volkswagen, and it's already there, and it's all hooked up. It's got its own amp. It's got its own wiring and stuff. And I hadn't noticed that. I mean, the radio has some power to it, but most modern cars have halfway decent radios. I listen to podcasts most of the time. I don't even really listen to music all that often, and so
Look,
I go
that
out-
is a great trade-off. You get a blown tire.
You don't need a spare tire.
Until you get a blown tire.
Well, I'm not going to be changing a tire anyway. Honestly, I'm not really physically capable of getting on the ground and putting a jack under the car and stuff.
Well, where
so
does your spare tire go, though?
I don't need one. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
how else are you going to sucker somebody else into changing your tire if you don't have a spare tire?
I called, I call the roadside assistance and they come and do it for me.
But did they bring
They
a
have to
tire
change
with
the
them?
tire. But what are they going to put on there?
Yeah.
Without a spare, what are they going to put on?
They'll bring a tire.
Nobody brings a tire.
Sure they do. They did for
Really?
my wife. Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
They bring a wheel with a tire on it, or just a tire, or what?
Yeah, they just have a steel rim. Yeah.
Huh? I didn't know that.
No, that's right. You have a really good system. Who do you go through? That ain't AAA. That's like quadruple A.
That's A infinity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went on and looked, and I was like, sure enough, it is in there. And then I turned on the radio and I find one of those old '90s like bass tracks. You remember those? Or like bass, how low can you go, and all that goofy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was rattling the windows. It was so much bass. It's ridiculous.
Are you gonna start listening to music now instead of podcasts?
Well, so I showed my daughter, and she's all into it now. She's like, "Oh, so there are apparently bass enhanced versions of normal songs, like if you search for it." And so she was playing this music, all the music she likes, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna come up with a whole playlist now." I'm like, oh, "Great!" So, and she's like, "When I'm old enough to drive, I can have this car, right?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like,
How old is she?
she's only 12.
Oh, you get a ways to go then.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, that was just a funny, like, out of nowhere kind of revelation. I never even looked. I mean, I guess I should have technically, but yeah. Anyway.
Martin, see, were you going to say something?
Yes. So I've been trying to get different VMs running and installing containers on my Star Labs laptop. And I wiped out one of my SSD nodes instances, and I'm trying to install YUnohost, and I'm coming across tons of issues because you can't do it on Debian 12. And on Debian 11, I'm having key store issues with the repository, which the script is supposed to automatically set them up, and I can see other people having issues and no real answers for them.
Well, you can't just install the Unohost ISO?
Not on SSD nodes. You have to pick from their list, which is the 4 RHEL related ones.
Right.
Rocky, Alma, CentOS, a couple Debian, Ubuntu, and I think that's it.
Yeah, that's true. I have seen that on several VPSs. Oracle's is like that.
But if I can get it working, my idea was to do the same for Lugcast Lab, and then instead of then we can add different users, and they would have a Lugcast Lab email, or at least alias email, with a real email address put in, and then everybody would be able to use. I don't want to host any videos or audio, but the things like Seer,
Seer XNG,
XNG, and Invidious, and the other ones that are just proxies and stuff. I think that'd be great to have a bunch of those up for everybody to use.
Yeah, I really want to get more into LXCs. I've been kind of experimenting with Linux containers, and I like that they're unprivileged, and but you still get access to kernel and stuff like that.
Well, when my Ansel was still working before they remote wiped it, that's all I was installing was LXCs. Ansel?
I know who remote wiped it.
The company Ansel.
Oh, I'm thinking of Ansible. Never mind.
No, Ansel. That cloud server, Nook-like server
Yeah.
that I have. Yeah, and now I can't boot from USB. I need to.
Why did they wipe it?
I forget. Because they switched from a forever free plan for people that bought the Kickstarter stuff to a monthly subscription, and if you didn't switch over to that, you had to reinstall the OS as Edge Linux instead of Ansel OS, and use their CentOS 7 rebuild. And then immediately when they switched, CentOS announced to switch to CentOS Stream, and no updates were being done to the machine. So I was having trouble getting it to work again after imaging it, and I was just like, forget them. I'm just going to put something else on it. It should have worked 8 years ago when I bought it.
That's
It's
crazy.
probably one of the most expensive things I've purchased.
And that was through Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I'm sure they had a lot of complaints.
I don't know. And they're selling little Raspberry Pi ones.
Are they? People haven't learned their
Yeah.
lesson yet.
I did. I mean, I like their design. I would build one out myself just like it. One of their questions on their forum at the beginning was, couldn't I just build this myself for cheaper? And they said yes. And that was actually one of the things I loved, because they had a great web UI built for, just installing from a list of images, and you
Mhm.
could add more images to install from. And it did really streamline and make part of the process easier, but there was just, it was so unrefined in my opinion, and I had nothing but issues with it. Things that they misconfigured that caused it not to work, and then they said if you change these files manually, it voids your support contract, but they never made fixes for any of them. It was a nightmare.
Well, I got one quick deal. I just read that McDonald's was getting rid of their AI drive-through or whatever. I ran into that at Panda Express. They have an AI that takes your order, and so this is just a few days ago. I always order the super greens with chicken and beef, and so I ordered that, and they said, "Would you like the AI asked me, would you like a egg roll or a spring roll or something like that?" I say, "No spring roll." And they said, "Okay, well, add that spring roll to your order." And I said, "No, I don't want a spring roll." And then it just quit talking. And so I get to the window, and the lady says, "Well, we have, here's your thing, and here's your spring roll, and it'll be so much." I said, "No, I told her I didn't want a spring roll." And they said, "Well, you added a spring roll to your order." And I said, "No spring roll." I told her no spring roll. And they said, "We got here that's it says right here plus spring roll." And I'm just like, I don't want a fucking spring roll. I try to talk to that stupid computer. I don't want it. I said, "Oh, okay." And she was like mad and stuff. Had to refigure out my order. And anyway, that happened.
They're gonna make these jobs so stupidly, they're not gonna give people any leeway to make any kind of decision. It's gonna be like Idiocracy, where it's just like they're gonna stare at you and go, "Well, it said you wanted a spring roll."
Yeah,
and you're
that's
gonna
what it
go,
was
"I don't
like
want a
dealing
spring
with this
roll."
lady.
And it's like, "But it said you wanted a spring roll," and just be like, it's like, fuck you and drive away.
I was getting to that point. I mean, it's just this fucking spring roll, but I didn't want the spring roll. Anyway, it was the whole, it was the point of it that I could have just paid for the spring roll, but I didn't want the spring roll. The computer gave me a spring roll where I didn't want it.
Was
And
the
they were trying
McDonald's
to make
one
me take it.
the one where when you drive up it says would you like to use the app today?
I don't
Or
know.
was there something else?
I don't know. I just saw the headline that they
That's lazy.
decided to get rid of it, whatever it did.
It never made any sense to me. It's like, why would I be in the drive-thru if I was going to use the app? Like, I guess maybe you pick it up that way. I don't know. They're trying really hard to get rid of as many people as they can. I think that's
Sure.
basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
As soon as they can make that shit cook itself, like, you'll never see another human being in there.
They've tried that. They've got the machines. It has never worked out effectively.
Yeah.
The Japanese do it.
Oh,
Well,
no.
the Japanese also have vending machines for everything.
They have vending machines for panties.
Yeah.
Use
That's
the
always the
panties.
most famous example people give. But I think there's probably even weirder shit than that.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
have to imagine.
I'll be there in September. I need to jump on with you guys when I'm there and tell you what I'm experiencing.
What are you
But the
doing
culture-
there?
I don't know if it'll be during a show week though. I'm just going on vacation. One of my friend's sister, her and her husband moved there for his job, and they told us to come on out and hang out with them. So I'll be there for a couple weeks.
That's awesome.
Let's see. It'll be. What was it, the first and third
Well,
Friday?
they're
So yeah, I will be
discouraging-
there during the show. The
Yeah, they're-
20th.
They're discouraging tourism right now because of how
Why?
horribly the tourists have acted in the last couple of years.
No, well, too late. I already bought my ticket. But we'll fly into Tokyo, and we'll work our way up to where they live in Fukuoka, and just kind of see shit along the way, and then come back. So it'll be a nice little trip.
That would be amazing. Yeah. Yep. I've always thought it would be just wild to go see Tokyo. Just that amount of population density, and how people survive, and how do you just deal with that amount of humanity surrounding you continuously.
I was there in 1999. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really have any I don't know what you would call really any interest in Japan or anything, but I know some people are really into it, especially anime fans and stuff like that. But I think it'd be cool just to see it. I've been to Thailand, I've been to China, but I haven't been to Japan.
I think it's just because it's like experimentation of human society and what happens when you have a society, form and sort of advance itself so apart from most of humanity. A lot of those Asian countries are kind of like that, where they were so insular for such a long time that they have very distinct and different ways of thinking about life and the world, and stuff like that. It's just so different. So it's not so much that how they do it is so fascinating, it's just that how different it is that's interesting. I do like the food. I can't deny that. I really like Japanese food in general, so at least the probably shitty American version of all of the actual food that exists there. I'd like to believe that I've had something, authentic, but probably not. I know, even just going to Mexico, whenever you think you've had actual Mexican food, and then you go to Mexico and you're like, oh, I've never eaten anything like this.
Most people think Tex-Mex is Mexican food.
Nope. I was in the West Coast, south of Acapulco, and they put this farmer cheese on everything. It's just soft white cheese that kind of smelled like feet to me. And it was absolutely vile.
Oh yeah, the crema.
Yeah. we went to a restaurant that was like American food, and I got spaghetti, and it was like it was like tomato soup, like that liquidy in a bowl with pasta, and the pizza was like, you know, when you describe what food is like to someone who's never had it and they try to recreate it and it never comes out right. Yeah, it was fun though. Again, anytime you go and you sort of see how other people live, I think is kind of fascinating, at least to me. Like, I've always had a interest in sociology and like that kind of a, like, you know.
Oh, one more thing I'm working on is called Flox, and I've been working with the dev on this to get it running right. And it's basically, if you've heard of letterboxd or tracked or one of those TV and movie tracking sites, it's like that, but it's self-hosted and it's federated, so you can write your own movie reviews, TV reviews. You can track what you want, what you watch. I mean, you can make watch lists and stuff like that. I put a link in the show notes, and I still haven't quite got it running, but hopefully I'll get that up pretty soon. And, so if you're into that, movies and TVs, and
yeah, I use Real Good, just because. I mean, no particularly great reason other than I just started using it and kept using it. And I just basically use it to track what's on the services I have, and when new stuff comes on, it tells me. So that's basically the value of it.
I use shows RSS.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. It just gets confusing to figure out like where something is actually available. So that's a pretty valuable thing to be able to just quickly, you know, save a list of what you want to watch and then be able to see what's available where.
I had a hard drive die on me. It was on my laptop. It was a laptop that I had like a bunch of stuff that I had, like my slicer program all set up on. I had the what RPG Maker set up on. So I tried to use like DD Rescue on it, and I don't know, I wasn't able to really pull anything from it, and the hard drive's over there clicking away because there's something mechanically wrong with it inside. Yeah, I let DD Rescue try to get it done, and that didn't really. I don't think it pulled anything worth pulling off, because I after DD Rescue I put it in Gparted, and Gparted wanted to I used Gparted to try to fix it, because it, I don't know. Next time I'll try to, if I do DD Rescue, I'll have it output to an image file and then try to exporting the image file, or try something like HDD superclone or Open Superclone, and see if any of that'll work. I was using a live version of rescue disk or something like that.
good luck.
Yeah. So the old game that I made is gone for the moment.
Oh, is that what computer it is?
Yeah, that was the RPG Makers was on. So,
oh man, sucks.
It was more of a learning experience anyways, so I have to reinstall. I'll reinstall.
Lugcast RPG.
Yeah.
Been lost forever.
Yep. But I like playing around with the data recovery stuff.
Have you been using Stable Diffusion still?
No, actually, I've been using that computer to try to do the data rescue, because that way I can plug in everything straight through SATA versus as opposed to through some USB.
Right.
So it's been kind of out of commission for a little while. Yeah, haven't you done much of anything since the last show and some of the stuff that I posted on in the Matrix?
I'm trying to update Lemmy too, and it's not working.
No.
Nope. But still online. It's just I haven't gotten to the new version.
Well, that's the main point, though. It's still being online.
Yeah, the server's doing great since the update.
Yeah, it seems to be running a lot smoother too.
Oh, way faster. Yeah.
It'll actually start up. We had a while there where it really didn't even want to start up.
Yeah.
All right, it's getting late. Does anybody have anything else?
No, I'm ready to go too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. All right, our next recording date will be July 5th, 2024. Our music is Downright provided by Klaatu and Broam. And we'd like to thank Minnix for pretty much everything. The Mumble server, Lemmy, Matrix, all of the above. I've been your host for this evening, Honky Magoo. With us tonight has been Eric.
Have a good couple weeks.
Joe.
Good night.
Minnix.
See you guys next time.
Mortensey.
Good night, all.
And Netminer already went to bed.
Mm-hmm.
All right.